welcome to Calling Out with Susan Pinsky. Today is a great show coming your way, and I want everybody to be ready for this. I am doing a psychic investigation into many topics that nobody has the answers to, such as maybe some questions about COVID-19 that we've never addressed with a special guest who's coming on, who I will not be able to tell you who yet. I can tell you that he's a patriot. He has a podcast and a monthly book club. Oh, and he's an Amazon bestseller. So he's coming in today to discuss some of these topics. Also, another topic we're going to be talking about is why we don't know more about the Epstein Files right now. What's in there? What can we look at psychically to maybe expose something before it comes out? I always like to be the first one here to say it before it happens. Also, we want to talk about Gene Hackman's sad demise. A great actor, may he rest in peace, with his lovely wife and his poochie that recently went to a better place. We're kind of curious what happened. Is there something nefarious behind it? But anyways, without further ado, I'd like to bring in our guest. Oh, and also, as soon as I introduce the psychics, sorry, I'm here today with the one and only Eddie Connor. You can find him at Any Connor Soul on Instagram. He has the best light. He's over here jotting down all his numerological investigations that we've given everybody's birth dates to him, and he's been studying, really busily today, you might say. He's been pouring into the spiritual world to look at these topics, as well as the one and only Andrew Anderson from Chicago. You can find him at psychicmediumreading.org. Hi, Andrew. How are you today?
Hi, Susan. I'm great. Thanks for having me on the show. This is exciting and right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, he's been looking at all these topics with me. Yeah, it's really cool. And last but not least, my co-host today is Emily, and she's from Emily Knows Everything. She's got a last name as well. Hagen. Okay. Yes. Yeah, there you are. You're straightforward.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we were kind of rushing around here because we had a lot of technical difficulties with the show, which only happens with my show. Kaleb's computer may go out in the middle of it, and we're gonna all have sort of a moment of meditation and talk to our higher power. Maybe you can help me, Andrew, and tell the spirits that we're here, we can hear them, and they don't have to fuck with my electronics anymore.
The thing is about that, a lot of times they don't even know they're doing it. But not Craig, not your guy. Seems like he does things intentionally. So spirits are energy.
Everybody needs to meet my friend Craig. I hope Craig shows up today too. I think Craig might, because of our guest, actually. I think there might be a connection. I really haven't given that much information to you guys. Yeah, so I know that my psychics do everything. They sort of go by what they don't know. They just use their third eye to look into information on our guest and find out, the answers to questions. And I can tell you they haven't Googled anybody, they haven't looked at anything, they know names, they know some questions and topics, but they're not, out there scanning the internet. Andrew can barely turn a camera on and use his iPhone. So I'm no offense, Andrew.
It's right, though. I have to... Got me back to the hair comment, I see.
It's not a bad thing, though. It's not a bad thing. We're all in our phones too much. You use your intuition, and you're very studious, and you love life. You don't need to be sucked into the internet like the rest of us are. And most of the information that we get in the world is from our phone and the internet. So it's all brought in through channels that are run by the government or protected by whatever, and we don't have the real truth. So I'm bringing on this guy today who is a regular on the Ask Dr. Drew show. I've been very happy to have him on several times. He's, I'm not going to give too much information, but he had a lot of questions for you guys. And he also wants to talk about the topics that we're addressing today. Welcome, Tom Renz. Thank you for coming in to Calling Out with Susan Pinsky today. I know this is totally different than anything you've ever done before. It is, we kind of call it a psychic TMZ. We have different topics and then we just sort of, talk about them as though we're finding out new information, and we put our heads together and then we just kind of say whatever's on our mind. So welcome to the show, and thank you for brushing your beard today. We really appreciate it. I know it looks great, by the way. Since I've known you, you've really, really grown a nice chin of hair.
Well, I combed it today. I combed my face and in preparation for the show, and I was very excited about this. This is certainly not in my wheelhouse. I have no idea how to do this or what's going on. I know almost nothing about this universe, about the psychic world, about any of this stuff. The sum total of my knowledge is that y'all do get used occasionally in police investigations. And it's a very useful thing. So there actually is a role for this in the law, and it's an interesting thing. So I'm interested to hear what we do and to see what this is, and it'll be fun.
Yes. So I want to start with the topic today of how you were involved in COVID-19 whistleblowing. And I want Andrew to start because he told me that he was ready. He has a lot of downloads about this. We went through a strange fight from the beginning of the pandemic, Dr. Drew and myself. I was doing this show before the pandemic. I only did a couple at the beginning of the pandemic. I was afraid to ever address this topic or even look into it spiritually. A lot of my psychics were afraid to. They didn't want to talk about it, or nobody said, hey, we need to talk about it. I just had this fear of getting myself in trouble, you might say, just because we were all so fearful of everything that was happening to us. So Tom, he is the pioneer of whistleblowing on this whole horrible situation that we went through all together as a humanity. And I wanted to just say thank you for your service and everything that you did to help the people that you've helped, and to stand strong and call out the things that you just didn't see to be truthful or right. And, you are a true patriot and a humanitarian. So I just want to put it out there. You guys don't need to read his numerology to tell him that. I'm just going to tell him that.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, and
thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on our show, because all these years, because it's really been a nice, it's nice to be proven right or to feel better. Whatever you've said to us has always made me feel better that we were on the right track. But anyways, as far as I'm kind of curious how I should run this. Like I'm a little nervous about it because
can I say something without giving away? I don't know whether I'm supposed to give anything away, but I want to tell you something, if you don't mind. When I started fighting, one of the very first things I did, and I hope I'm not giving away anything I'm not supposed to, but one of the very first strategies I implemented. This is, you guys know my story, and I'll let that set aside. But I knew that I had to fight to get so that people felt comfortable speaking. What you felt was felt by so many people. No one had the courage to speak because they couldn't. They were ridiculed. They were berated. They were told they were going to get in trouble or investigated or this or that. Their businesses were shut down. And so I got to tell you, it's a huge honor for you to say that to me, Susan. I really appreciate that. I've been honored with you and Dr. Drew, your friendship, the fact that you guys have stood by. You've given me a platform to share some of this stuff. And, you guys have listened with an open mind as I've presented the things I've presented. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I with all that, I know that, our audience appreciates everything that you've done, and we're, hopefully, our audience appreciates everything that you've done. See, another technical problem. How did that just happen? Okay, so if anybody has anything to say out in the Restream or the Rumble world, I'm watching your comments. I'm having a few problems with that, but we'll see if they pop up for me. Okay, so I want Andrew to step into this conversation.
Yes, yeah, because this is something very near and dear to me. You can go back to, I believe it was the February before the March when COVID hit. I was on a live national radio show saying before anybody else did, what COVID was, that this was done on purpose. It was done in the lab. A lot of it was expedited. I don't think the timing was right. Expedited because of what Trump did to China, and that effect had a direct relation to what happened here. And also, Susan and Tom, did you guys hear about what came, the three things that came from the DARPA, which is the research of the arm of the military? They said there are 3 agents ready to be used against the coronavirus if it ever happens to get out. It was in print in 2009 and 2010. And it said there were 3 agents that would help marvelously. This is what they said. And those 3 agents were interferon,
hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, that one. And ivermectin. Ivermectin. Those were printed back then in 2009 and 2010. So tell me they didn't know. What is that?
What is that?
Oh, do you have some?
Yeah.
Oh, I need some for my rosacea.
Oh.
It's in that kit you sell.
Yeah. Emily, you can hold that up next to your rosacea.
I was just talking about, I manifested this. I was just talking about this on the ride here with my mom. Yeah. Good for parasites, a lot of things.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
This was like considered evil during COVID times.
Yes, we were censored for using the word ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine on our show Yes. Yeah.
You were censored if you posted to take vitamins and drink orange juice.
I know.
At one point.
It's true. Okay, keep going, Andrew.
That's crazy.
Well, I was just pointing that out. That's news. There's a lot of things that are real news. Those are synchronicities proving to me, and Tom too, that what he felt and what he knew was real. We get proof along the way.
So Tom may be a little bit intuitive or psychic, and he just doesn't know it.
Well, he does know it. He just thinks it's something else. He's been programmed to believe his thinking and thought patterns are coming from where his schooling, his education. But in reality, we all have a psychic gift, and we're driven by things that we don't always know, God or whatever else it is. It's not always us. So he does have an inherent psychic ability. The sooner he would embrace it and maybe understand it, he might go to even another level of understanding God and some of the other things he wrestles with in his head. Yeah, I feel Tom is very and was driven by spirit to do what he's done.
I can confirm that. I mean, I can confirm that 100%. The first thing that I did, and I've told this story publicly many times, I'm a Christian. You don't have to be, but I'm not apologetic for the fact that I am. And I sat in this very chair in 2020 as the lockdowns were occurring, and I prayed. And I said, God, I believe that you want me to fight this. And if you put it before me, I'll fight this with the most integrity and with the best of my ability until I've gotten justice. And so 5 years later, I hold true to that promise. And along the way, there were so many things that we were able to discern, to find out. And, that I can absolutely tell you that this was driven spiritually. But, like I said, I'm a God guy.
Yeah, God is one of the most powerful entity spirit out there, and the big driving force and the positive things that we're seeing with this. The truth will come out. It usually does, but usually when it's forgotten about or whatever. But the problem is we're still being affected by the vaccines now, and they're pushing all this stuff, and the real data is coming out. Their suppression days are pretty much over for most of it, is what I feel. The truth is coming out.
We intended to make sure that we set the groundwork so that could happen. And, I'm very proud to say that we're seeing that. One of my big goals when I was starting out, and, and I don't know if you guys are supposed to talk about my background, if I'm supposed to say too much or what I'm supposed to, But, coming from where I come from, which we'll say is more than a little humble, I knew that at some point for me to really win this war, it was going to there would have to be bigger people than me, right? There were going to have to be people with bigger platforms, bigger names, bigger voices. I'm an attorney and I can go to court, and I did, and I have, and will continue to. But at the end of the day, to win this fight, to bring truth, the light of truth had to be shown, right? It had to be shown. And that could only happen for the world, right? Because I could save some with whatever I had, but to save all, it had to be done through bigger names, bigger voices. That's part of the reason I was so grateful when Dr. Drew started helping us, right? Because he's huge platform, well known, very respected, and a brilliant doctor. And so I meet Drew and Susan, and they're helping to get the word out. But that was always the plan, right? Get this to a point. Provide sufficient evidence, sufficient proof, sufficient this, sufficient that, and then allow the world to do what it does and the light of truth to do what it does, because truth is like wildfire. Once it starts, it just spreads. And so that's what we had to do. We just had to light the fire.
It's true. And we also had to trust our instincts on a lot of stuff. We're just like, and Drew was like, that just doesn't make sense. And then we'd get canceled. Freedom fighting and free speech was really difficult to obtain at that time. And since you do work, let's just talk about Tom's accomplishments. He's worked with a lot of people that have sued against, the travesties that were given to them during COVID-19. And he got a lot of information, and he sent us from the HHS, right? And whistleblowers. You have to explain that to me because I'm not really sure. And he had some questions about like he was going to try to stump you guys, but now that he's here, I don't know. I sent the questions to you. Did any of those resonate with any of you guys? Like, didn't either one of you or Eddie see those and say, "Oh, I can probably tell you that"?
I saw the questions, but I didn't answer them. They're on my phone.
Okay. Did you have any thoughts on that, Andrew, at all?
The questions from Tom?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
I have too much notes here. I would have to go look it up.
I thought we were going to go down the list. That's why.
I was going to do that, and Tom asked questions, they're just to see if he could, stump the psychics. We don't usually do that here, but
let's do it.
And I'm sorry if it was inappropriate. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I've never done anything like this.
It's not inappropriate, but I don't know. Maybe we could do one of them and just see
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So one of his questions was, where was the most surprising government agency I received whistleblower information from? So Tom was gathering a lot of information, and he had a surprising government agency that he worked with that.
It'd have to be something almost directly connected to like the National Institute of Health or the Center for Diseases Control or something where they're speaking one thing and there's whistleblowers and they're telling the truth. And the truth is the opposite of what we were told on mainstream media. It feels like it was right at the heart of the
CDC?
The CDC, the NIH, or the World Health Organization.
We did. We had some incredible whistleblowers from within. I'm not going to say how many because I'm very, very protective of my whistleblowers, but I will say that we had directly from CDC specifically, we did have, I can confirm there was whistleblower information that was given to us.
One for the psychic.
What about an internal government agency? What about an internal government agency, FBI or CIA, someone more deeper? That's what I'm feeling.
That's what I was going to say.
You, sir, hit the one I was thinking about.
Okay.
I was thinking it.
I'll tell you, and it ties into, and I mentioned this, and you guys can guess about this, but I will tell you that CDC was correct, but the one I was thinking about at the time was CIA. And
I'm not kidding. That's what I thought. The first thing that when you said that, CIA was the only one that popped into my head.
The reason
that has
it was
to be
surprising.
the spirits.
The reason it was surprising to me was not because I wouldn't think they knew, but because I wouldn't think anybody would. I mean, who here? I live in Ohio. You don't hear anybody from. You don't get people from CIA people, right? But interestingly enough, the way that I had to get that information was one of the most bizarre instances of all the things that happened. And understand, like, I live in a little town in Ohio, right? So, like, I'm not used to crazy, like, novel type stuff, right? But the other gotcha question was going to be, because no one really knows this, right? This stuff that I lived, how I had to get that information, how it was handed off to me.
It reminds me of Watergate.
Yeah.
That's what came to my mind.
Well, so
what was that, guys? Wait, what was Deep Throat. Deep Throat. There it is.
So this is no joke. This is an actual, and I don't think I've ever told this story on air because it's so unbelievable that, like, I just, to this day, I can't believe that it happened. I can't believe I did it. I actually got a call, and I can't disclose I say a call. I'm not going to disclose the mechanism by which I was reached. Okay, but I was contacted, and someone said, "I've got info," right? I said, "But it's very sensitive. I can't talk about where it's from or this, that, or the other." And so I've got a process that I go through because I had a lot of people calling me at the time that were potential whistleblowers, and they said, "Well, we want to give this to you. We believe that you should have this, but we've got to take precautions." So interestingly enough, I was asked to go physically show up at a place to get this. It wasn't emailed. I was given physical copies. There's no electronic record of any of this. There's no way that there would be any electronic record of any of this. And I was asked to actually physically go to a specific location. And it was literally like a movie. You have to meet us at midnight in a dark parking lot behind a building, surrounded by a forest. And this is like, I mean, it's no joke. Like, I'm like, wait a second, I'm from Ohio. This doesn't happen ever, really?
Sounds like one of Emily Hagen's weekends with Kanye.
Mine is all digital. I only receive information digitally, but I actually think in Ohio, Tom, that would be the way. Somewhere in the woods, middle of nowhere.
It was something, and I got to be honest with you. It was more than a little unnerving because, like, I'm pulling into this place in the middle of wherever.
How do you know they're not going to kill you?
I'm like, and I'm meeting some anonymous guy who gave me enough information that I was confident that I needed to get it. So there's a process. I didn't just show up with every random nutbag that said, "Hey, I got info," right? But there was a process, and I was able to get enough that I was confident that it was worth the risk, right? So I go meet this. You're gonna have to meet here. You're gonna have to be this, have to be that, and there was enough. Yeah, I got friends in the military and friends who were tied in with intel, and I'm like, how do you vet intel? How do you vet people who are giving you, And so I spent some time talking to them and learning how they would like vet what's worth listening to and what's not. And so I decided that this was worth it. So I actually, I show up in the middle of a night and.
What year was this?
Did you have a mask over your face, like a black mask, not a COVID mask?
No, I didn't have anything over my face. I figured they already knew who I was, and I was already very public. So it's like, yeah.
What year was this?
I think this would have been 2022, but I'm not positive. Yeah. I would have to look back on my notes. Some of that ran together because.
I would also like to know the vetting process. Just asking for a friend.
Yeah.
What are some tips for vetting crazies and intel?
Yeah. Well,
because the line is fine.
Oh yeah, it's very fine, and it's hard to tell sometimes, right? And a lot of times you'll get people who have good intel, or they'll have good information that makes it look very real, but then you'll have to look for the telltale signs that there's something wrong, right? So one of the things that you'll get is you'll get a great internet researcher, right? And they'll come up with all this stuff that maybe you haven't seen, and it looks true and then it checks out, but then they'll draw conclusions and it turns out that they're a bus driver for, some local school district who's just a nutbag, but a very good internet researcher. And they're telling, and then it leads, for me as a lawyer,
I feel called out.
Yeah. Well,
that's what she does.
I'm an online sleuth myself.
Well, but that's okay, right? But you don't call me and then say, hey, the CIA's tracking me because I found this on the internet and I need you to sue them so that they quit, tracking me.
No, but the interesting thing is an Uber driver turned whistleblower was just on Joe Rogan. He was an Uber driver just a year ago, and now he's known as an expert on taking down Israel. So is Joe Rogan vetting these people? It's someone to me that just does a lot of Reddit late night deep dives.
It can be, and that's the problem, right? How do you distinguish? So the way that I do it is, for me to use something in court, there's got to be some firsthand knowledge or some evidence, something that I can verify, right? Otherwise, it doesn't meet evidentiary standards. So what I do is I look at the person. And you got to look at the motive, right? Why are they bringing this to me? Do they just want me to make them famous? Do they want me to, help them get their story out there? Are they going to make money off of it? Or is it something that they're doing truly for the right reasons because they want to do right? And sometimes you are doing things for the right reasons, but you also want to be famous. So sometimes there's a little of that too. Then you have to look at, where would they get the intel? Do they really have access to the firsthand information? Would they be in a place where they could get it? Is there a legitimate mechanism? If you're a bus driver from Utica, New York, and you're telling me that you spent that you somehow had access to the CIA headquarters in Langley, well, okay, how did that happen, right? But if you're someone who you're around the right people, this checks, the people you're around check out, your stories check out, you can verify a bunch of the information. The more that you find that makes you look credible and that can be verified, the more likely there's credibility there. And then, I always watch for telltale signs, right? So I get a lot of people that'll call me as a lawyer, and they're, unfortunately, a lot of them I think are pretty mentally disturbed. But they'll tell me that the deep state is after them, right? The deep state's after them. Well, who are you?
That's what Andrew Tate was saying yesterday. The Matrix is attacking me, and then it gets everyone to believe. That's the tactic. That's the playbook.
Well, and here's the thing, right? So what can I verify about that? I don't know Andrew Tate, right? So, and maybe Andrew Tate's real. Maybe some of these people are real, right? We do know that there are bad people that do bad things, and it is for real. But how do you distinguish between the ones that are and aren't? And so you have to look, and I worked with a guy who really was harassed for the information he had. He really was on a pretty profound level. But how do you prove that? Well, I ended up going to his place. I ended up going through his evidence. I ended up, searching. What do you got? Do you got pictures? Do you got data? Do you got this? Do you got that? Over and over again. And he's able to produce a lot of stuff on that. Now, other people, hey, what evidence do you have? Well, I've got nothing. Well, okay, so you've got no evidence. You have no contacts with anybody. You're not powerful.
Can you disclose what kind of information they gave you in the parking lot with the CIA or with whoever it was?
That I cannot. But what I can tell you is, remember,
it has to be an insider. It has to be someone connected to the organization. Otherwise, you're just an internet sleuth. Like, I'm only an expert on the subjects that I was connected to on the inside. The other ones, I'm no better than any other online person that's covering that story.
My expertise is 100% because of the people I worked with and the time I spent investigating. Mm-hmm. And some of it for us. So, like, for example, take Dr. Drew, right? He's become kind of an expert in the COVID realm, well, because he's researched it so much and he's got the professional credentials, right? So he may not, have the inside information, but he's got the credentials. And I do the same thing as an attorney, right? So I just look at the evidence. What can I verify? What can't I verify?
Yeah.
And if it meets evidentiary standards, if I can verify it, if I can show it, then I consider it in my arguments. And that's how I become, you become an expert, because you don't make mistakes when you can count on the evidence. Right. I don't have to be a scientist.
And it has to be truthful.
And the thing with truth I've noticed lately, though, is that everyone has learned that that's the buzzword, truth. So now truth is kind of being marketed, where people are saying that are being deceptive, are presenting things as if they are true. And they keep, they're like, kind of proclaiming themselves as truth tellers, but they're packaging lies as truth. So now truth is just whatever echo chamber you're in and whatever you want to believe. So truth kind of boils down to whatever information you're fed or your own confirmation bias. People don't even know what truth is anymore, and it's too hard to distinguish between the truth and the lies.
And I don't think they know what the truth is on purpose.
Sometimes they just want to believe whatever. If they hate a certain celebrity, they're going to read stuff only about that celebrity, and that's what they want to believe is true. When the evidence could be presented right to them and spoon-fed, and they'll still dismiss it. So it's like, does evidence even matter if the truth is just based on public perception?
Well, I believe, Megan, you do entertainment reporting, right? So you talk about it in light of some celebrity, and you're dead right. People look for evidence to affirm their beliefs, right? They don't develop their beliefs on evidence. They look for evidence to affirm what they believe. And that's one of the big problems. It's also something that's widely used to manipulate us, right? So you look at what's going on. Well, take COVID. Right? So you got Anthony Fauci, you got all these guys. And one of the things that they did during COVID, it was here in Ohio. Mike DeWine is a Republican. He's our governor. And he was the first, in Fauci's emails, we found out that he was the first Republican that they expected would in my world, sell out and back the COVID narrative, right? So they worked with him. And one of the things that he did was he locked our state down. We were the first state to be locked down by a Republican governor, which opened the door for all the other Republican governors to do it, right? Someone had to be first on the Republican side. So they did it there. Now, what did they do then? Well, Mike DeWine and Dr. Amy Acton would go up at public health. They would go on TV every day, and they would sit in front of a cozy fireplace, and they would whisper sweet nothings in our ear about how they were keeping us safe and what was going on and all these things. And it was all about building trust, right? And they have with them, they have a a doctor, public health expert. They have credentials. They have all these things. And so they lay the foundation of that belief. Now, once they've done that, and people have bought that belief, then you get to this whole thing. It's easier to tell a lie than convince someone they've been lied to. And that's what you're talking about. Because once you've got a belief, once you believe that mask was keeping you safe, it's hard to convince you to take it off. Because then you have to look inside and say, you know what? I was lied to. I was manipulated. And that's unfortunately what happened. And to this day, I still see, especially young people wearing masks who were so manipulated, so bought into this, they can't recognize the reality that those masks were never keeping you safe. And in fact, you're inhaling a bunch of microplastics, you're inhaling your own CO2, you're inhaling a whole bunch of gunk. They not only didn't keep you safe, there's substantial evidence that they cause problems. And so they're
giving
still
you acne.
I had to get an eye lift.
That's why I need
That's
the ivermectin.
How bad it was. It was like, okay, I need to get my eyes lifted. Okay, that was the word. It cost us a couple dollars there. So when
dermatologist.
But I think Anthony Fauci, tell us if this is right, Tom. Didn't Anthony Fauci, for his college thesis, do an entire thesis on how it wasn't the Spanish flu that killed more people, it was the mask wearing that killed more people during that epidemic than the flu itself?
I don't know that for sure, but I'm going to look at that now that you've told me that, and I'm going to find out one way or another, because if he did, that would be, you'll see it on Twitter later.
Later he was like, oh, I never told anybody to wear the mask. That wasn't my idea. Like, he just said it doesn't work. And then, but this was after we spent millions and trillions of dollars on masks, all from China, by the way. And don't get me started with China. But anyways, Andrew.
Well, I also wanted to point out something that Tom said about credentials, because we're saying, well, people trust Drew, but I don't even think people respect credentials anymore because of people like Fauci. They don't trust the science. They don't trust the experts. So now even credentials don't matter. People are trusting on like the bus driver in Utica. It's an interesting phenomena happening. So I don't know when it's going to give.
It's giving as we speak.
Well,
because I don't think it's that they don't trust, they don't know whom to trust anymore
Right.
with anything, because those repetitive talking points we started hearing on during COVID, the COVID lockdowns. I've studied hypnotherapy. Every 20 to 30 seconds, you saw a billboard. It was on your phone. It was on your iPad.
Right.
It was on your television. It was on a billboard. It was on a park bench. It was your neighbor, or someone was wearing a mask. And they repeated it in this lulling voice, which is what you do when you're subconsciously programming someone to follow your agenda. And then they slipped in there, wear the mask or you're going to
just
kill
like you're
grandma.
doing right now.
Well, they're also doing it with like everyone doesn't trust mainstream media. So now they're pushing towards legacy media. But now these independent journalists are using the same tactics that the mainstream media was doing, and they're programming us the same way. So that's going to be blown off the roof too soon.
And then throw in the fact that Obama reversed the Smith-Mundt Act on his last day leaving office, which means people can lie and cheat and steal about anyone and everybody on national television. So no one knows what the effing truth is until we get someone like Tom.
Right.
Ooh.
Yep. And
Well,
you have
when
to
you
be
looked
willing.
at-
Thank you. But you have to be willing
Okay.
to give up everything, right? So one of two things was going to happen. I was going to lose everything in that fight, or I was going to propel us through. There was no middle ground on that, because
Right.
it had to be that way, right? So
Tom, you were
So was it
guided
your
by God.
faith? Was it your faith that helped you
Yes,
drive
God.
that?
It was impossible for him to fail. God was
we're thinking the
behind
same thing.
All right, yeah, it is. It was impossible for you to fail because God was behind you. No matter what happened to you, you're a stronger man now because of it. You're much more well known than you were before.
I
So
believe
a lot
that.
of good came out of it.
I believe that. And
Look at it
hopefully-
for what it really is, though. It's not you. It's you were driven by a higher force, a higher power to do the greater good.
100%. I got to tell you something. All credit to the big man, 100%. So you've got to understand, I mean, there's times where I'm sitting in this office and it's like you're looking at the immensity of the fight and you're looking at your resources and it's like, okay, so Pharma spent how many $1 billion on buying Congress people? I have never seen $1 million in my career. I mean, you're looking at what
Exactly.
you're fighting, and you're looking at how big the discrepancy is. And I started martial arts when I was a kid, right? It's like walking into the ring with Tyson in his prime, as your first fight. It's like, oh my God. And so, it was constant. There was so many times where I had to rely on faith, where I had to rely on, we always made sure that we did everything based on fact, verifiable fact. I could show. You could never find anything that I said that I couldn't back up 10 different ways. We always were very disciplined. We worked harder than anybody else. Speaking to Mike Tyson, he once said, if my opponent gets up at 5 o'clock to start training, I'm getting up at 4. If my opponent gets up at 4, I'm getting up at, well, we did that, right? So it didn't matter. We outworked everybody, that's for sure. But at the end of the day, I do believe, God guided us. We were able to find the right way to do things, the right way to accomplish this. Because I look at the lawyers that kind of popped in on this and kind of popped out, and some of the doctors and some of the celebrities and some of the people. And when I started fighting in this, when I first started, there was nobody. Then a whole bunch of people kind of got their bear muscles on and decided to join us. And then I watched some people who were so much just profoundly better attorneys, smarter people, more this, more that, more whatever. But I watched them come in and get knocked right on their can. And then, then they're gone, right?
They weren't training like Tom.
5 years later,
You were
I'm
in
still
training.
fighting. 5 years later, I'm still
God
fighting.
bless you. So, Andrew, do you have anything to interject here? I can see your wheels turning over there.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to meet Tom, so he was supposed to meet me. However, that's manipulated by God, the universe, whatever it is. There's something a little more here. We'll probably have to talk later after the show or some other time, but
It was literally in my
This is
head
going to
when
be
you
a
said that.
3-part series. I already figured out. It's a lot of information here. But as far as like what Tom does, if anybody, isn't sure of what he does. He gained international attention for his work challenging corruption in the U.S. government, and advocating for individual liberties, medical freedom, and informed choice, which is all something that we did when we were given the vaccine, and you sued a bunch of people and won when they were vaccine injured, right? You were like one of the first to do that. Am I correct?
Well, we were first on a lot of things. The vaccine injuries, there's no, we haven't done anything directly on that yet because there's nothing to do, right? And what I mean by that is right now, the PrEP Act precludes us from suing the vaccine manufacturers directly.
Well, what was it?
They just didn't Biden right before you leave office extend it so that they couldn't sue they just extended that bill.
Well, he extended the emergency. The emergency.
Yeah.
He said that there's still a COVID emergency, which the only emergency there was.
He's making it impossible for vaccine injured to sue. I think, right? He's protecting the vaccine companies.
They're trying. Yeah. They tried very hard to do that. And what they've done is, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you got the COVID vaccine, you didn't get it from Pfizer or Moderna. So part of the reason you can't sue them, you not only have the PrEP Act, but you didn't get it from Pfizer or Moderna. You know who you got it from? The U.S. military. Yeah. Oh, the U.S. military distributed the vaccines. Anyone who got a vaccine, they were bought by the U.S. military and distributed throughout the country by the U.S. military. So
the manufacturer culpable? Isn't the manufacturer culpable for knowing what they did and did it anyway?
Well, they built in a lot of layers of protection. I believe that we can get through them. I'm still working on that.
There is a way to get through them.
So what was the case that you sued? I remember, and I'm sorry I'm not up on this, but what was the case that you did where you were successful? It wasn't about vaccine.
We did a lot of successful cases, a lot of employer, vaccine mandate. We did a lot of them. One of the things, there were a couple of them that you're probably thinking of. We had several that were huge, high-profile cases. One of them that was probably the most important case was the case where I sued Biden and Fauci and everybody else. And what we did was we sued over the federal vaccine mandates. And that was the America Frontline Doctors case. And in that case, what happened... I
knew it was something like that.
Yeah. In that case, what happened was... this was back when Biden was forcing all the government employees and contractors to get the vaccine. And so, I worked with frontline doctors. They said, "Hey, what can you do?" And I said, "Well, let me come up with something." So we came up with a case. And I had a great team of lawyers who volunteered to help me with it. And they were wonderful people, good people. But we put together a case and we structured it where one of two things was going to happen. We filed the case and we were either going to get full discovery, which means that the government would have had to disclose the truth and all their data on all these vaccines, or they were going to have to shut down the mandate, right? And I structured the case that way specifically because then it's no lose. If the government gives me the discovery, there'll be no more vaccines because we knew they were unsafe. I had the whistleblower data. But the whistleblower data wouldn't necessarily, some of it made it to court, but some of it couldn't, right? Because of the way it was obtained. So they were either going to give me the discovery data, which would have immediately shut down the mRNA vaccines entirely, or they were going to have to remove the mandate, right? So the government drops the mandate on all of my clients. Biden, that was the first time he withdrew a mandate. So he drops the mandate on all my clients. And what they were going to do, because we had more whistleblowers, is they were going to drop the mandate, and then they were going to wait until I dropped the case, and then they were going to reinstitute the mandate. So he only dropped the mandate on my clients, right? And so what we did is and the most important part of that case was actually an abeyance
Doesn't that set a precedence or something, like when you do that? I don't know. I'm not a legal authority, but...
Well, it would have if we were able to finalize the case, but the reason that he dropped the mandate was because he knew we were going to get to discovery, and he knew that we would eventually get a ruling on the case. So he dropped the mandate, which then they were going to argue that the case was what's called moot. They say, "Hey, your guys aren't in trouble anymore, so you can't file this case," right? So what we did, and the most important part of that case, was actually just a little thing, and it's called an abeyance hearing. And we had a hearing as a motion hearing, and we requested what's called an abeyance. And what that means is we said, Your Honor, Judge, yes, they dropped the mandate for us, for our clients, but we believe that they're going to bring it back. And if they bring it back, the possibility of recurrence is very likely, and this, that, and other. And so we have this. Well, we won the day, and so what that did is that put the case there, but we didn't have to do anything. So they didn't have to give us discovery, but they couldn't get us to get rid of the case. That forced them to drop the mandate on everybody else. And that was part of the strategy, right? Because what happens then is if they didn't drop the mandate on everybody else could have filed the same case that I filed. And eventually then they're faced with the same thing over and over again. So it ended up, that was actually, to my mind, probably the most important case filed in COVID because it was the beginning and the end of the mandates.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah.
It did help.
That was a big
I
deal.
think started to turn around at that point. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all such a blur now. Eddie's squirming over here.
I wanted to ask you this question. When you first started this fight and to bring awareness to the nation and the world, if you will, were you absolutely shocked and stupefied at how incestuous the media, the politics, pharmaceuticals, etc., were all in bed together to deliberately keep people from knowing the truth?
Yeah. So in 2019, I was pro-vax. I was. That's how far I've changed, right? In 2019, in fact, my wife frequently reminds me that going back, to the mid-20-teens sometimes, I never forget this. I go into the kitchen one day and my wife is telling me, hey, I just heard this actor talking about how their kid got autism for vaccines. And I looked at her and I said, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Do you really think that an entire industry could be that corrupt? And so fast forward, and she's reminded me of that a few times since then, right? So, and I understand we haven't proven the connection between vaccines and autism yet, but I absolutely believe it's there. And give me time, we'll get there. But yeah, I've been shocked every step of the way. I just couldn't believe the number of lies. And I asked the question, once you start seeing the lies, the question, and I kept asking it publicly, when do you trust a liar? Because they keep lying to us. So why should I trust them the next time they talk?
Good versus evil.
I think you're going to find out within 2 years about autism and the vaccines. Within 2 months to 2 years, it's going to come out.
I think they mentioned that last night in the address. They said that 1 out of 37 children have autism. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's, there's a reason for that. But, and I noticed, I go, why does everybody's kids have autism? Like everybody who has a baby after 40 or whatever. But yeah, I think that vaccines have something to do with it. And we used to always poo-poo poor Jenny McCarthy, and Rob Schneider, our friend Rob Schneider.
They were leading the movement.
I know. They were actually right. They were right. But do you have any questions for either of these guys, about your work and what any questions psychically that you wouldn't be able to prove? Any questions?
Something that you can't solve with evidence.
We move on to the ever so famous Epstein Files.
Well, I do. I have one that kind of popped into my head while we were talking about this, right? So one of the things, and I have not got the answer to this, right? So I have a ton of evidence on this, but the evidence is inconclusive. And one of the biggest questions that I've had is, at the end of the day, behind us, we see the Chinese Communist Party's hand in the creation of COVID and the vaccines and all this stuff. We also see some of these globalists, the World Economic Forum, the Bill Gates type crew, these people who are pushing all these things. There are substantial connections. In fact, I actually have the data. I showed, connections with a number of big name globalist crews that are tied in with this. At the end of the day, I can document and show you that $5 trillion was made off of COVID with a T.
Wow.
There was a ton of damage done to America. But what I'm really trying to decide, China or the globalists? At the end of the day, who's pulling whose strings? And that one, if you guys can answer
And
that
I
one,
have
boy,
the
I'll be
same
excited.
question, Tom. Literally, I've been thinking about that all day. I'm not even kidding you. For the last 24 hours, I've been thinking that there's a misdirection in this globalist theory where they're trying to pin it on the Jews, but it might be some completely different elite class. And I've wanted to ask them the same exact question.
I haven't even seen the Jewish connection, to be honest with you. I don't know that was even there.
Well, that Andrew Tate, Candace Owens, Kanye West, Ian Carroll, they're all blaming it on this. Israel, but
the COVID vaccine.
Well, no, they're blaming
the COVID.
Just that they blame Jews for everything, anything corrupt in society.
That's what I was about to say. Is those four blame everything on the Jews?
Yeah, I've seen some of the anti-Semitism.
Well, and I blame everything on China. So let's see what the psychics say.
It's probably
I think you actually might blame it on the Chinese Communist Party.
Yes, not the Chinese. The communist. Yeah, the scientists and the government. Yes.
I think what Tom's fantastic at doing is spotting discrepancies and consistencies and liars. You're just really, really grounded at doing that. And you do lead with your head, heart, simultaneously, your heart, mind. But to answer the question, it's not going to be popular. And this is the thing about being psychic. And Andrew, jump in at any second. When you're intuitive and you do what we do for a living, you cannot have a dog in the race. So when somebody asks me about Trump and they start screaming or Kamala Harris and they start screaming, I'm like, I am not talking politics. I'm going to answer your question. And so we don't have a dog in the race here, but I do genuinely feel, sense, and know in my heart, mind, and soul, there's a group of people that are behind the oligarchs, that are behind the non-elected leaders who kept trying to put us in little smart cities by 2030. And I do believe there's an unlimited amount of financial freedom that they use to manipulate the people that are on TV in front of us, telling us what to do, but they don't have any power either. And now what I'm getting in my mind is there will be a connection to Israel indirectly, but then I'm hearing, what is it called? Is it called Mossad or something?
The Mossad. That's Epstein,
and then there's going to be, it's all incestuous, it's all interconnected. And here it is. There's a group of people that you will never see their face that are behind the people's faces you see in every country in the world, pulling all of the strings at the same time, simultaneously, which is why you will have the media or the celebrities or the politicians, the government, the medical facilities, etc., all dancing to the same choreography until Toto pulls back that flipping curtain and shows you that it's all BS. And I feel like we're right there at it. It's going to be pulled back this year. I really believe that.
I feel like Israel's too obvious. Like if everyone's saying it, that I feel like it's got to be, that's misdirection.
I don't think it's Israel. I think there's a connection
there's
there.
Some connection.
There's a group
But there's someone behind the scenes, like you said.
In every country in the world.
Is it aliens?
What do you think, Andrew?
Well, I'm going to answer Tom's question on a different level, I think. So, Tom, I feel your answers, you have them. I feel like the proof is with what you already have. Some staffers or whoever you had hired or were reviewing stuff may have failed you or missed something. Something within your work is there. There is some proof, I feel, within whatever you've done, all the evidence you already have. You just don't see it as the proof yet. Something will potentially get you over that hurdle, maybe reviewing a lot. You have a lot of stuff to review. Do you have staffers or people that have reviewed a lot of stuff for you?
Over time I have, but I mean, they're all volunteer, we've never had a budget to do anything. It's all been self-funded mostly.
But my point is, I thought I was hearing you find out where your proof is. You're looking for it. You have this, this is real, that's real, but we need proof. I feel you have something within your paperwork you already have. So maybe review something.
I could.
Yes.
You have to get specific.
That's very possible.
Honestly, I'm going to jump on Andrew's train here. It's a military connection. There's a spy connection, and there's someone in witness protection that I feel like you already have a 1 degree separation to that will come in and put a big, nice bow on this package to to back what Andrew was saying. And it feels like it's within 1 to 3 days, no more than 1 to 3 months. Thank you. And they're saying you're already setting on 90% of it. And then this other piece that comes in that you connect the dots. You're going to run through the house like a crazy person, screaming and praising God. You are. You're going to get a headache. You're going to get an ice cream headache from cheering yourself.
That's him every morning, though. What do you mean?
Only on Tuesdays.
Well, does Andrew think it's China, Israel, or Morocco?
Here's the thing.
Mars?
I think what you have to look at is who is actually a member of the globalists. Why do you think that the Chinese aren't involved in that? They are. Yeah. What I feel happened might sound a little weird. This was meant to happen. China pushed this COVID thing way too soon, and it caused a lot of governments to scramble. A lot of governments knew this was coming, this not when it came. This was never meant to happen like it did. I think China's involved, but I think they're part of the globalists, as they're called.
Oh, they're definitely involved.
Okay.
Are there any good guys?
But the problem is,
in this room,
we were involved with China, and we had Biden as a president. So when, since we were involved, it was all hidden, and it didn't come out of a lab; it came from a wet market. Yeah, no.
But I also heard that they push COVID soon to sabotage Trump. That's another theory floating around.
Well, I think it leaked by accident, but the fact that we hid it so much means that we were involved in it. When the military is involved, we get no information. Once it gets to that point, like you said, it's really hard to get any information after that.
Well, and I think there's two militaries. I think there's two governments. I think there's two everything, good and bad. But I think the bad is being wiped out faster and faster, finally.
Well, don't you find it odd, too, that Netflix, it's all predictive programming. There's more shows right now about the CIA and the KBG than any of is it KGB or K, whatever? KGB. You know what I meant.
Yeah.
There's more assassin shows than ever before, which is making people realize that this stuff could be real. Like you never saw, and I'm obsessed. I was like, what an amazing life it is to be an assassin. You get good clothes, good apartments. You just have to kill a few people. Like take away that part and it'd be a career worth aspiring to have. But now I'm like, wait, this is actually possible because and then like the pandemic show that came out before COVID.
Well, I worked for John Wick, but it kind of hurt at the end of the movie. I will say this, though. I can confirm this. I can confirm some of this, right? So we know, and we actually knew before Doge. You got Elon Musk doing his thing, right? But before USAID and Musk, so I have screenshots, document things tying USAID and the CIA, right? The CIA was acutely aware, and USAID did fund the project that created SARS-CoV-2. I've got the grants. I've got the paperwork, right? We know it was in the mid-2010s. We know that, shockingly, Hunter Biden was pardoned back to 2014, right? Well, the project, the grants and everything, all the evidence that we have that suggests, that COVID was created in the lab. I got whistleblowers. I've worked with the people. We put this report out before Congress ever did. That stuff is all documented. So our CIA, our DI, our intelligence agencies were aware. Also, remember something. Legally, you can't export the science and the technology necessary to create a bioweapon to a place like Wuhan, China, where the CCP is running a biolab in a bioweapons facility, right? So to do that, there's records. There's export control regulations. There's ITAR. There's a whole bunch of law that says there's records of this. So when Ralph Barrick and Eco Health Alliance partnered up with the CCP over there in China, and they are doing whatever gain of function work they were, and by the way, they announced in a 2015 Nature article, which is a peer-reviewed medical journal, that they had created something that's identical to SARS-CoV-2. I think it was SARS-CoV-2. And this was all funded. All this data, all this stuff, this is stuff that we put out right before the 2022 election. I sent to Congress, I sent to a couple elected officials down there, a report we broke down. I worked with Make Americans Free Again and Andrew Huff and a bunch of other people. We put together all this stuff that showed that this was created back in the lab in 2015. Andrew Huff worked for EcoHealth Alliance. He testified to it. I got a declaration under penalty of perjury from the guy, right? So this is all there. They create this. There is a record of it. Our CIA, our military, they knew it. The paperwork exists, and I'm hoping Doge will dig it out because it's there.
Excuse me, but do you believe that there's a higher level above each country and coordinated with each country, like
New World Order?
Eddie said, yeah. So this sort of, or do you think it's just China?
I have seen real evidence suggesting exactly what our friends here were saying, that there are a group of people who seem to be working behind the scenes. You never hear their name, and they're basically untouchable. I will tell you that listed on the project.
I have heard that before. Have I heard that from you?
Let me provide you some evidence, right? So listed on the project that involving the creation of SARS-CoV-2. One of the groups listed on that project by EcoHealth Alliance in their press release was the Rockefeller Foundation. Now, anybody who's
always goes back to Rockefeller,
New World Order, and these secret families, their names always amongst the list, right? Now, remember, I'm an evidence guy. I got to have evidence, but their name was listed on this list, right? Well, fast forward, I get a couple whistleblowers from the Rockefeller Foundation. I have gigabytes of data from the Rockefeller Foundation. I'm not able to disclose most of it publicly, because it would basically blow the cover of the whistleblowers. But it was really interesting. It was very eye-opening to me, and the way that these things are done, and it gave me great insight as to how certain things happen behind the scenes that we never see or know. But yeah, one of the things that's really interesting is in that data, and I've actually shared this before. Of all people, you want to know one of the people that they spend an inordinate amount of time talking about in the data that I was given? Alex Jones. No joke. Alex Jones, of all people, they had spent an inordinate number of files on Alex Jones.
Like he's like they like him or they don't like him.
Controlled
Like
opposition.
him. They were not loving him at all.
Because he was always calling them out.
So they don't think he's controlled opposition. They think that he's.
I only can tell you what I got on evidence. They didn't like him at all. The Rockefeller Foundation, based on the files that I saw,
he was sued for an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah, they do not like. They were very, very clear that they were not fans of Alex Jones in any way, shape, or form. He was someone that. Yeah, like I said, I can't say much about it because I can't.
It's good that your sources trust you.
Well, you know what?
Because if I had that info, it's hard to hold on to so many secrets, Tom.
Well, listen. So
it sucks too, because then you want to tell people you're right, but you can't you don't want to discredit your sources so they don't trust you.
We have to move on to the Epstein.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Testified what?
Well, I was going to say, I testified before Marjorie Taylor Greene. I had a whistleblower. I have medical records of a soldier. In 2015, he had 5 different encounters in Fort Riley, Kansas, where he received the COVID-19 vaccine from Moderna. How did he do that in 2015? How is that possible? I think it's 2014, 2015. But how is that possible? It didn't exist back then. Now, I've got those records. That I can't talk about how I got it, the soul, who it was, where, anything else. But what I can tell you is the amount of data that we've gotten and that we've seen and that we can't make public is terrifying. And you can't get it out there. And I will. If you ever want a real story, you get me going on how many protections we have to put. Some of the data I got, literally no other person on the planet has seen or knows. I can't share it with my wife, with my kids, my team. It's not on the computer. We have stuff that's literally physical copy only. I have whistleblowers who I've promised to protect, and that I wouldn't let them sign a legal agreement with me to protect them, but I will protect them because I didn't want a piece of paper that could be raided. Unless they can raid my head, Nobody's going to ever find out what some of the stuff that we know.
What do they call that? That's HIPAA in the doctor world. What do they call that in the legal world?
We've got attorney-client privilege, and we've got a bunch of stuff like that work. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like the whistleblowers, because I get a lot of information too, and I feel like they want me to share it. Like they're like, don't share it, but they actually want me to leak it to little outlets. There's those types too.
Oh yeah, there are those types, and I've actually had some of them mad. Well, aren't you going to do something with that? Well, what do you want me to do? I can't do anything without revealing your identity. Yeah, but you should do something. No, I promised that I would look at it. Yeah.
Oh wow, what a crazy life you have, Tom.
I want to team up with Tom, but he's not going to tell me anything. So.
Susan, remember our January show, the prediction show we did? And one of the topics I had brought up to you, I don't know if you remember this, was whistleblowers coming forward this year. It's on there. And now you have Tom here. And what the whistleblower thing I think I was referring to had something to do with the CIA. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. But it's funny, now you have a whistleblower here.
And it's interesting because Andrew Tate's in the news again, and his dad worked for the CIA. So that's another theory people are diving into right now.
And I think part of the reason why Tom was invited here, and I'm trying to segue here, is because Emily Barsh sent me a Substack that you wrote about the Epstein Files. And have you done a deep dive into that? Is that something that you've been
I've been really fussy about that. I've been really fussy about that. I'm not happy about the fact that it's still not out there. And I've just seen so much shadiness. Now, listen, I know that, Bondi and Patel and these guys are out doing their thing, and I get that there's a lot happening. But we're talking about blackmail on some of the most powerful people on the planet. And I want to put this out to the audience, right? How do you control a billionaire? You can't buy them off. They don't need your money. You can't. You
film them having gay sex.
With children.
With minors.
Yeah. You do that. You do that because then you've got the only leverage you can ever have on a billionaire.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to take away what they have, right? Well, that's the only way that you can ever control a billionaire, because a billionaire, once you reach $1 billion, for anybody that doesn't know this, you get what's called a home office. That home office manages your money, manages your investments, and basically the way the law works, once you get to the point where you're worth like $1 billion plus, it's hard to lose that. It's almost impossible to lose that, because
unless you're Kanye.
You got to be pretty special.
Lost billions in a day.
Yeah, but I mean,
special.
In fairness, he did some pretty special things, right? But it's hard.
I agree.
It's hard to do that, right? So the only way to control someone like that is through leverage, that sort of leverage. And then you look at some of these political leaders. They may not be billionaires, but they have, you go into Congress broke and you leave with $100 million. You're not, you've got, no expenses anywhere because you've always got someone paying for everything for you. You're the equivalent of a billionaire. So, they're hard to control too, but how do you control them? Well, leverage, right? So you got to understand Blackmail. The Epstein list. The Epstein list is the ultimate form of control, and no one on this planet should have that power. The only way to eliminate that control is to completely transparently put it out there, and it needs to be done immediately. If you're that kind of person, if you're doing that kind of stuff, get it out there, because
who's on it? So who, we all think, maybe Clinton's on it, maybe Trump's on it, maybe, a few, Arab kings and a, Prince Andrew, right? But psychically, let's look into that. What is the reason that they're not releasing the information? Of course, we want to not ruin somebody's life, because they went and did something sexual or whatever. It doesn't seem like...
What's the point of them announcing? Why did Pam announce that they were giving it? And someone that I work for, it was one of the 15 journalist influencers at the White House that was handed a binder. So she's been receiving a lot of backlash for the binder. But they didn't know they were receiving those binders. They thought that they were going to open that binder and that there was going to be something in there.
Right, and we would all be talking about it.
And
it would
Pam,
be exposed.
but then Pam deflected and said, oh, well, we're in a fight with the FBI. It's the FBI. So it's like, then why did you even go to Office Max and print out these dumb binders if you didn't have the information? Why not just say, I don't have the information? Like, why did they do that? Was it just to get people upset?
No, I think part of it is flushing more people out.
Or they just buying time?
I think flushing people out and buying time. Some of the people who have those binders who are huge influencers, not all of them, there's a couple of people in there that's going to end up being part of whatever they call the swamp, if you will. There's some people that are literally speaking as if they have inside information on things, and they do, but there's going to be some of those people that are going to be flushed out big time.
But even the influencers were upset that there was nothing in the binder.
Yeah.
It had a name tag of their name.
But it says phase 1 very clearly. And that should have been all they needed.
Phase 1 was already released.
Well, you wait and see what's going to happen.
Yeah, that was the biggest letdown. That morning when I woke up, I said, there's no way we're getting any names. I was right. I felt vindicated. I'm sure, Tom, did you expect names that day? I know I didn't.
I didn't.
I was cautiously optimistic, but I'm going to tell you, here's the thing. So as an attorney, there is no way. One of two things is absolutely true. Either Pam didn't bother looking. One of three things. We'll give her a benefit of the doubt based on the input here. Either Pam didn't bother looking at what she had, or
you had one job, Pam.
Or
right.
And she just, someone just said, yeah, we got it all. Okay. So she didn't bother looking. Either she didn't bother looking. I don't think that's true. Or she's the worst attorney on the planet. Literally the worst attorney on the planet, which I don't believe to be true either, because no attorney on this planet could look at that information and think that was everything. No one. Literally no one. That's just like attorney 101.
Right.
Even
there's always too much to read, right? You don't have enough time to read it all. There's so much.
Yeah. Or three. So, there was another
who
plan.
held it back? Who held it back? Was it Trump?
I don't know.
Who pulled the plug
I have no
on that?
evidence on it. I have no evidence. I have to believe that there was some sort of a plan with this, but I don't know what it was, and I'm frankly extremely frustrated.
Who do you guys think? As psychic, who do you think stopped the flow of information?
I think the military.
Oh, God, we're back to them again?
Yes. I'm going to say the good military that is working, let's say, with Trump or there's a thing in this whole world they call the white hats, the black hats, etc. I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about the good military. I feel like the military's been in charge for a long time now, and that truth will come up too. I also feel like this was a strategy to flush out some more people. I really do, and some of them being the influencers. But I want to say this is fascinating. Pam Bondi is an attorney. She is a Life Path 4, which is the number for an attorney.
Isn't that Tom's number?
It is Tom's number 2. Tom, you are a Life Path 4, which is law and order, justice, fairness, equality. But your second number in your birth date is 6, and you're born in the year of a 6. That is home and family. Home is where the heart is. This is what drives this man. It is the family, children, community, God, light. The heart drives you. What drives her? She's born on the 17th. That's an 8.
Uh-oh. She's like me.
Heaven and earth. She is up and down, left and right. She is a fart in a whirlwind. Okay.
All right. Maybe she didn't look.
And I also no, she looks. She knows. I think she knows exactly what she's doing, and
So
she's doing what
behind it.
she's told. I'm not a fan of her. I think she's going to get flushed out.
I mean, Laura Loomer's after her on X, but who isn't Loomer after?
Doesn't Trump fire everybody first round and then they rebuild? Sorry.
No, I think
I have a theory, guys.
Heads rolling. Yes. Oh,
Caleb, the voice of God.
Yeah, my theory is that they are seeing what's going on with AI and AI video creation and image creation, and they're like, we're so close. All we have to do is wait for the next generation. We flood everybody with a ton millions of fake videos of every prominent politician out there, fake videos of them doing bad stuff, and then no one will ever know what's real or not. So they could leak every Epstein tape that they wanted, and no one would ever be able to tell what's real. Just give it a few months.
Which is interesting because of
be gone.
the press conference. yesterday, the press conference with Melania, she was in the White House doing this. It was like randomly Melania says something, and it's to prevent AI porn videos from coming
Absolutely.
out.
Right.
But they've been doing that for 4 years.
Some would argue that's the only good thing about AI.
Well, but
Yeah, some
but-
are arguing that on X.
So think about this on the AI front, though, right? Just to kind of throw this in with what Kaleb was saying, we heard there were a bunch of very, rumors, whether they're credible or not, I don't know, that they were burning or destroying data before it was sent from SDNY to the FBI headquarters, right? Now, no one is officially talking about that. Perhaps they were, perhaps they weren't, but that's the thing, right? So what they've already done is they've already laid the groundwork for us to say, is this legit? Is it the complete list? There's already questions, right? There's already, and it's been sitting up there, right? We hear all this stuff in the media today about how the guy running the SDNY New York FBI was corrupt and he had to step down, right? We hear all this stuff about, suggesting that he was all these different things. So what they've done is they've already successfully laid the groundwork for us to distrust whatever it is that they put out. And that's the real problem.
And I also feel like I feel this way. When I'm hearing you speak, here's what I kept seeing psychically. Someone, and I'll call it the good military or whoever's in charge, the good people, I feel they have everything. I feel they have a forensic trail, proof beyond proof. I feel like they have every single thing, and they're waiting to see what the other agencies do with that information. Are they destroying it? I do feel like they were destroying things, burning things, and that, if you will. But everything they're destroying, there's already an existence of it somewhere else. So then they can come back and they'll always have that. What did they call it whenever you have all of this information and they can't kill you? Because if they kill you, then you're going to release this.
Dead man switch.
Kill switch.
Yeah.
Dead man switch. I feel like there's a big ass dead man switch.
It's also possible that this was just another marketing tactic to pander to the MAGA base. Oh, if Trump gets elected, he's going to expose the Epstein list and then blame it on the FBI when it can't come out.
No,
and they never are going to do it. We're never getting the list. Mark my words, we're never getting the list.
We're getting the list.
We're not getting it.
Show me the mustache sign for yes. Show me the
But we're going to get AI videos.
Get the list.
We're getting a revised
We're getting the list. Yes, and it'll
There's
be,
no way it's going to have, honestly, everyone's name
Trump
on
won't
it.
be on
not
it.
everyone.
Okay.
Not
So-
everyone.
It's going to expose too many people.
I'm going to change gears here because Andrew has to go really quickly before.
Does Andrew think we're getting the list?
That's what I wanted to expound on. First of all, I want to clear one thing up. I was asked, did Epstein commit suicide? Absolutely not. He was killed. I'm surprised that's even a question out there still, but for some it is. I saw Saudis, princes, yes, maybe even a Bush on the list that also have ties to Epstein. But what I do feel the most shocking of all is a female. I don't know what that means, but somehow females involved.
Oprah.
Oh, huh. Wow, that was quick.
Why did we all
really
think Oprah? All the three women in the room thought it was Oprah.
I thought it was Hillary.
Wow,
Is
that
she
was
part of that
synchronicity
Illuminati
of its own.
that ran COVID too?
Well, I mean, do you think we're getting the list though, Andrew? Like, do you think that'll ever,
I
the
think
truth will
we're gonna
ever
get
really come out?
A-list.
Will it be
What
real?
I feel no, that's what I'm trying to say. Their list is being manufactured. The AI thing
That's
is,
what I'm saying.
What if it was Michelle Obama?
I also feel there was a different list that of people that stopped coming. So I don't know that list is there or they even found it. It feels like there was people before this list. And those people, there's a lot coming. I think that I will get
That's an interesting point that Andrew makes, is that let's say that there is one very gigantic list, but then they have to go and separate, okay, well, how many of these people came to the island before anything was known about Epstein? Should we include them on the list? But then later on, will people be mad at us and say, oh, you're censoring the list because these are all people that were your friends? So it's like, well, let's say, I don't know, let's say, Oprah went there back in the 80s. Well, did anyone know Epstein was bad in the 80s? But her name would be on the list. But it would just make her look bad when she probably didn't do anything wrong and had no reason to suspect anything was going bad. You know, that's what the videos, the list of the videos is more so important of who was actually there.
I also think there's still a trafficking ring happening now, and they're using Epstein to cover it right now.
That island was created specifically for this. That island was created from the get-go before it even became Epstein's island. It was created to do harm to these children.
Oh.
But I think there's harm still happening.
I do too.
And there's trafficking rings that are still in full effect, but they're using Epstein to distract us. Let's focus on the Epstein list when there's actually real trafficking happening right now.
Yeah.
Look at fashion houses. They literally bid on the women when they're on the runway, but no one wants to expose any of those people. They're too focused on Epstein.
Yeah.
What about the trafficking happening right now?
Which is like, they can't give that up.
My mom goes, why are you talking about this? Why can't you just write about like marshmallows and butterflies? I'm like, because this shit's interesting.
I mean, they also can't give it up because think about this. It's the ultimate distraction. Anytime they need something, like all of us to be distracted, they say, oh, we're going to drop an Epstein list. That's everything everyone talks about for 24 hours.
It's a
you get a binder the next day.
Misdirection.
So go look and see what happened in those days. Like what happened in that week of time that they needed to distract us from. There's a bunch of different things.
Let me throw this out there while we're on a TV show. The next day,
they wanted Zelensky to distract from the list.
And Tom's going to throw something out.
Let me throw this out here while we're on a big popular place with lots of people. I've been told over and over again that you hear these stories, these wild stories about the kids in cages and tunnels and all this sort of stuff, right? If someone's got, and then I get told in the same breath, but there's no attorney that'll do anything about it. I got news for you. I've been asking for 2 years now. If someone's got real evidence that I can use, I don't care if your last name is Podesta or Clinton or Gates or Epstein. I don't care who it is. If there's something that we can do to save kids, if I can get it, it's got to be real. It's got to be verifiable. It's got to be court quality evidence. If I can do something with it, and listen, find a way to get it to me. I'll stand for kids, period. Because I will tell you, and Andrew, I think it was you that said this. No, I don't know. One of you guys said that kids are the driving thing. I love kids. I'll stand for any kid on this planet. If we can stop these people. At the end of the day, the reason this is a distraction, because we're talking about sick people who do things to kids, and that is so far beyond acceptable. I got to be honest. You want to mess with me as an adult? Well, okay, that's one thing. You mess with a kid, man, that's unforgivable to me. Yeah. Unforgivable.
I agree. 100%.
And my point is that it's still happening.
Yeah,
even though it's
100%.
The trafficking's still happening. But
I don't think he's dead.
I would love to look at the fashion houses.
We're trying to extract Andrew out of here. He's got a heart out. But Andrew, thank you.
Did Andrew have anything on the Satanic Church?
Yeah. We're going to lead out with your prediction of the Satanic Church on the way out. So you won't have to stay if you don't want to, but it's okay.
Bill Gates and Reid Hoffman might be on that list.
It makes sense.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, well, that's what they said. I've heard that.
I mean, Bill Gates looks like he looks like the list. Like, Bill Gates looks like the Epstein list.
Steve Jobs. Yeah, it was all billionaires. Yeah, just line them up.
Pedophiles have a certain look to them. Just like school shooters have the bowl cut, pedos have a look.
I'm going to take a leap of faith here and say they may have been affiliated with these billionaires and they were on this island and they were wooed and they were part of it, but they weren't all pedophiles. I don't think. Exactly. I think they're. I'm not going to call them pedophiles. I'm going to say they were in a place that had human trafficking in it. There are witnesses. Things did happen. Maybe there was sexual impropriety. Maybe they were underage and something happened. But it doesn't mean they're pedophiles.
Well, if they're 14 or 15 and they're having sex, technically they're pedophiles.
Exactly. There are people like that, but I'm not going to say just because they're on the list.
Well, just because they were on the plane, they're not either. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, the way that system is
not all of them were doing that.
Let's remember that you're innocent until you're proven guilty, first of all. And second of all, have you guys ever heard of brownstoning? Brownstoning is a real thing. If you talk to and tell people, it's a very real thing. One of the things that, they'll train State Department people, diplomats that go abroad, but it actually happens according to my people here in the States. And these are, I've got federal agents that I've worked with that have talked to me about this. And they said, what'll happen is you will get invited to a bar, to a party, to a this, to a that. The next morning, you'll wake up, and there'll be a couple pictures on the pillow next to you in your bed in your hotel room with a little note that says, if you don't want these to be made very public, we'll be in touch and you'll do what we say. That's a real thing.
Exactly. So they're being blackmailed, obviously.
Totally.
But it doesn't mean they're pedophiles. I just want to put it out there.
No, it doesn't.
But
I'm not calling Oprah Winfrey a pedophile.
We should make note that, because a lot of people that are saying they're not pedophiles are getting a lot of hate. So we do need to make note that if you do have sex with someone under the age, then you technically are a pedophile.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because right now they're trying to push pedophilia by saying it's a mental illness
In our state.
So I'm just don't want to get ahead of it before anyone's Susan supports pedos.
No, I'm not saying
You're just making sure we're
I'm not saying it was okay
just
what
'cause you're
happened
on the
there.
list
I'm just
doesn't
saying
mean you're a pedo.
just because you were on the island, maybe you're being blackmailed because you were on the island. So
Epstein was
Just
spending a
wanna make
lot
that
of
clear.
money. He was dropping a lot of money on scientists and researchers, and that's how he got into a lot of these circles as well. And so that's why I'm always so hesitant whenever they're talking about the list, because like I was saying earlier, there's going to be a gigantic list. Half of those people are just going to be scientists that didn't do anything wrong, that were just like, well, they accepted money from some random billionaire
and
that
they're
was
going to
wanting
have to deal
invest.
with it in the
And that's why
public forum.
Right. And I feel like that's part of their hesitation of
deal.
releasing the whole list, is that, well, how do they sort out who was actually a bad person and who wasn't? And if you edit the list at all, then you're going to be the president that changed the list, you know? You don't want to be the one that edits it.
It's intense.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so
Good point.
Andrew, I know you need to leave, and I want to give you a final word and say thank you so much for coming. Yeah, and I appreciate your time. I know we kind of cornered you into it today. You had something else. We said you have to show up. we strong-armed you. But anyways, you can find Andrew at Anderson at psychicmediumreading.org, and he's really happy to meet you. And he's a great psychic medium. He's done some great work for me. And as he exits, we're going to show a video of something he predicted, and then Emily's going to confirm it.
I'm not going to confirm it.
Green Girl was actually here when he mentioned it, and we're just going to talk about it a little bit and show some of his psychic abilities. So, do you have that video, Kaleb?
Yeah, I have it.
Thanks again. I really appreciate it.
So if your viewers or even people are even aware of this, I'm feeling some strong connection to the Satanic Church, and in these, I felt more of a silent Satanic Church. So powerful people, elites or otherwise, celebrities cannot be found out and known that they're part of this church, but I feel they are. And there's some lists coming available this year that's going to attest to that. There's these people. Your Satanic Church, is the head of the church still in San Francisco? I think it was before, right?
A Satanic church that celebrities are filling.
I was actually at the Masonic Church at the very top, because that's where YouTube decided to host one of their company get-togethers. I kid you not. So if that's what you mean by the Satanic.
So what we did is I was yelling over to Green Girl. She was getting ready, and I said, "Oh, it's really interesting that we're going to be talking about Kanye West in the next segment, which was after the break." And come a week later, we had an experience, or I didn't. Emily had an experience where she mentioned something. Emily,
a few days after that episode, I received an anonymous DM from some random account with no followers. So, like, if Tom was receiving this, he would probably think this was an Uber driver or a bus driver in Utica. But it was talking about how Kanye attends a Satanic church. And it was like a week after Andrew said that. And I just didn't look into it because I don't have any, he didn't have any evidence, and I can't find the screenshot now, but I'm going to look into it. My phone's just not loading. But they gave the name of the church, and they said it's about to come out. And then I went to his premiere of his wife's like big film premiere the other night, and they were playing like an organ song on repeat, and it was almost exploding your eardrums. And it was basically a snuff porn film where there was like teenagers there because it was open to the public. You had to pay $100 to go. And there were just all these people watching Bianca, her tits in the water while like Asian women were like nibbling her ear. And it was very bizarre.
This is the woman who was on the Grammys.
It was the most satanic vibe I've ever felt. And I'm very attracted to the occult and darkness, sadly. Scorpio, like 12th house or 8th house or whatever. But as I'm leaving the party, these 3 guys approached me almost like they were the 3 disciples. And they were like, how did that video make you feel? And I didn't know if they were ops. So I didn't care though. It made me feel like trafficking. And they were like, yeah, I felt abuse, control, and that it was satanic. And then the second guy was like, man, I miss the Kanye. And then the third guy was like, I need an exorcism after this. I think he joined a satanic church. Like they were trying to hypnotize us like Astroworld. It was the same loop of music for 4 hours on repeat while we were watching this like really dark imagery. And I think something is coming out because Kanye had a church. And when you have God by your side and you lead that many people to God, then the devil works harder to bring you down. So I think there's definitely something that's going to be coming with him. He might expose himself being part of the church. I think he's going to tell us he's part of it.
There it is, Andrew. Does that resonate?
He said, I am God.
Absolutely.
He's been saying, I am God multiple times. But some of the stuff that they're like into right now, it's very dark.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated by all of it.
And it may be an Epstein list 2.0, actually, when we find out.
And Diddy's kids were there. They were there at the party. Diddy's kids were at the party. It's not their fault. Their dad is, you know what I mean? And I actually had some empathy for the kid.
Well, they're born into it.
Anyway, you definitely called that out, and I appreciate
think it's going to come out even more.
We like to show when our predictions somewhat manifest themselves in our. And it's weird that Emily happened to go through that. I said, "Did you hear what Andrew said the other day?" And she said, "No." And I was like, "Well, he was talking about it," and then we just wanted to mention that you were right about something. I don't know if if it's going to be something else, but it sure is out there, definitely. So it's very sad. Tom looks very.
Well, Tom likes Kanye.
This is a straight up Ohio question, right? I'm just going to show exactly. So, like, I got to be honest with you. I know the Satanic Church is out there. I've never seen it. Is it like a big thing in California? Is that like a for real big thing out there? I mean,
there's a lot of things out.
Where I live, it seems like just a couple lunatics that are here or there that may have lost their mind doing something. You know, I mean, looking for some publicity.
I think there is a satanic church.
After too many beers.
No, there is some type of satanic church in Ohio, and they have a Baphomet statue because when I was studying the Olympics, it kept coming up.
And Ohio was
surprised me.
was
we do have our connections to child trafficking and some real crazy people that are connected to Epstein out of Columbus. I don't have to mention any names, Victoria's Secret. I
can't believe
is that where Les Wexner is from? Is Les Wexner in?
Wait, Andrew. Andrew's still here.
I wrote down I have a lot of notes here that I never got to, but he just said Victoria's Secret. They were in my notes here about coming to the news today. I'm looking for it. One of the positive things I saw, I want to just throw this out there, that the next Trump will be known this year. So if everybody's wondering who's next, what's going to happen when he goes, we'll know this year. But I was seeing, I don't know where my specific, but I was feeling something to do with the lingerie store.
It's on the list.
It's on our list. Did you send him the list?
Yes.
They're going to be in the news. They're going to be in the news. I don't know who that is, but they're going to be in the news this year about something to do.
Les Wexner is connected to Epstein and Mike Jeffries.
And maybe 9/11.
And Mossad.
The rumor, and it's big in Ohio, is that it's tied in. So our governor DeWine, reportedly, not proven, has ties to Wessner and other people who were tied to Epstein, and they were also tied in with the Clinton Foundation, who were allegedly trafficking kids out of Haiti. On a pretty profound level, again, all alleged.
So
but
ridiculous.
That's a rumor that has been, that just won't die.
Susan, I appreciate you having me on your show today.
Right. Thank you for coming. We're gonna
Great
move
show.
into
We're gonna
a
continue
little
this.
connection. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm so happy. That warms my heart. And thank you for your spiritual guidance and interjections whenever we gave you a moment to
meet you,
talk.
Tom.
You too, sir. I'll be reaching out.
Yep. Thank you, sir. You guys. All right. Bye, you guys.
God bless. So
Bye.
with this whole Epstein thing, and then I had another question about Gene Hackman this week, and he passed away about a week ago. May he rest in peace. And huge celebrity, actor. He looked like my dad, and my dad was a big fan of his. And he did some great movies, and he became kind of a recluse in his old age. And he predicted that he was saying something a while ago about how, actors come up dead for no reason and we can't figure out what it is. Like the actors are being sought after, and I don't know, is it the deep state? Does he say the deep state? Anyways, he passed away in a weird way. They just found him and his 65-year-old wife and their dog dead in their house in New Mexico. And it doesn't look like it was gas related, and they don't know if they took a bunch of pills or if it was a suicide or whatever. So I just thought I would, see if you had any insight psychically. I don't know if you have any interest in this topic, Tom, but Dr. Drew said that, good. Dr. Drew had his instincts on what may have happened, but I want to see what Eddie can come up with.
Oh, Lord, Susan.
Sorry. Give us a.
Okay, so just some of the generalization things. First of all, there's definitely something with the heart connected. And what's fascinating is he was in his heart chakra when he passed, meaning he was living a full year in his heart chakra. And the heart chakra is not of the heaven and it's not of the earth, but it is the only chakra that marries your heaven and earth together. And that is symbolized by the number 8. And 8 is his life path number. And what's interesting is he's born in 1930, which is a 4. And this year his focus was 4. That goes back to law and order and justice, equality, fairness, and the truth will get exposed. And we're in a 9 year, which is endings and new beginnings. Now, of course, he's a great actor. He's born on a number 3 day, and that's always the great number for actors, right? And performers of any kind. So whenever I was tuning into him, he's definitely the reflective hermit. He's born on the day of the reflective hermit. So I feel heart energy, heart attack energy, but I also feel there is some weird stuff going on too. So I'm just going to read it because I'm pussyfooting here by accident. Okay, so he's driven by a deep truth and fairness and justice. He walked the line to keep his family and career safe for a long time. And then he got to a point where he's like, I'm going to start talking. I'm going to start communicating things I've seen, things I know, not hearsay things, but things he knew that he knew that he knew for a fact. And thank you. They're even showing me people that had been in the system that somehow emancipated themselves out of the system that found their way to him and had conversations about some of the things we've talked about earlier today. Now, this is fascinating to me. He's a life path 8. He died on the 17th. That is an 8. 1 and 7
Well,
is
they
8.
found him
On the 26th,
Another
which is
8.
an 8.
Oh.
Of a heart issue, and he was in the heart chakra. Now, here's where I'm getting goosebumps. I'm not one of those like super sensational, like, oh my God, but there was some weird things with foul play here. And so the heart's disrupted, but then I also feel something like an outside force that was targeted toward him. Now, I know there's such things as heart attack guns, and I know the ice guns, but I also know there's pulsating things you can shoot at somebody to stun them or knock them out or whatever. I literally feel some odd thing from outside of the house that comes into the house. And it could be a cell tower. It could be 5G. It could be something, I don't know, but I felt that loud and clear. And it was targeted either purposefully or not. And he
received it in the heart chakra.
He had a pacemaker or something.
And there was a door ajar conspiracy.
Okay.
So the door was open or something. So there could have been entrance.
Oh, he did. Oh, good.
It says
I did.
he knew.
And I can tell
It
you
says
that
that
his
he-
pacemaker showed. You're on, because his pacemaker was one of the data pieces. So I researched this because I knew that Susan was interested. His pacemaker showed that his last recorded activity was 9 days before they found him. And that's one of the key pieces of evidence showing what happened, because these guys were found there. So this was really bizarre. They find him dead in the mudroom he's 95, so he could have fell over from a heart attack, but then they find his wife dead, who's only 64, in the bathroom with it looks like she dropped, right? Because there was a space heater that got knocked over, and it looked like pills came out of her hand. So it's like something. There was a mess, right? So this happened, and then the dog was also dead, and there was no explanation.
That was the
Why
weird
would
part.
there be 2 people and a dog dead randomly in different parts of the house? And his pacemaker showing that, some interesting stuff. And they claim 2 things that are really peculiar. First of all, they claim it was not carbon monoxide, which that would have been one of the few reasons that would make sense for something like this. And second of all, they claim that there's no reason to think there's foul play. Well, wait a second.
Do you think this? So he said it's something.
And the other dog was alive. So Drew's theory.
But what were you saying about the taser or some kind of a gun that would shock him and give him a heart attack?
There is such a thing that our government, created that they can shoot you with a gun, and it's just a little stream of
they zap you.
Ice. It's frozen, super frozen ice. And when it penetrates you in your back or your chest or wherever they hit you at, they go for the heart.
It freezes you.
And
then you hit your head and you die.
It leaves no trace. It is water. We're made up of water.
Huh.
And so once it gets into the body, it just gives you a heart attack, but then it melts and it leaves no trace of anything on the body.
So what was he going to expose in the government?
That's accurate. I can confirm that's a real thing. It was developed in 1975. Or at least that's when they admitted
you just came up with this from heaven? You've never heard of this before?
No, I just felt like it was, I know about that, but I kept feeling something that was like a targeted thing.
The heart chakra.
I'm old school, yeah. So it you can, they can aim it towards you and shoot you with microwaves. Like you can't even pop popcorn and stand too close to it.
It's like laser tag, but it kills you.
How would it kill a 65-year-old woman, though?
It can kill anyone.
It can kill anybody.
Oh, it can kill you.
Yeah,
okay.
it would literally F up your regulatory system or whatnot. But here's the wild, crazy things. They said that he had built up a lot of venom, but in a good way, about what was going on. He felt disgusted by a bunch of inner workings of certain people and part of the industry. Now, here's the weird thing. And again, this is all just coming through. It's like breached security system. There was something with an outsider. There's 2 people. And they were not on the property, but near the property. And I'm going to say in the woods. And I know I sound nuts, but one of them was in a tree and they're watching, as you would think of a sniper would do when they're trying to get a targeted hit. They were masked. Now, this feels like something happened between 10 p.m. in the evening and at 2 a.m. This person or persons were on foot and they were paid to silence him. I'm going to say allegedly. And then I kept hearing something about full disclosure, something about he was going to do full disclosure, and then they had to make that not happen. And I feel like his wife is tight-lipped, but I can also see something in writing. I kept seeing writing that they got into the wrong, writing that they had talked about, emails or something in writing that got into the wrong person's hand, and then that person talked to somebody who wanted this to be stopped. I also feel a weird New York or Northeaster connection to this, but I don't know why. Now I'm going to say some weird stuff on top of that. More weird. I'm hearing the name Kathy, Katie, Kate, Kath, CKT female. And then I kept getting a weird thing with the restaurant or server or waitress energy. Then I kept feeling like one of the cars was going to be set up to endanger them, like Grace Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And something with the brakes failing or a remote controlled, can you say Anne Hesh car? The truth will come out. I don't think all of that, what we're talking about, is going to come out. I kept hearing Mark or Mick or Mike, a male with MCK. And then I'm being shown.
What was his son's name?
I don't know. But there's something up where they could get into the tree or on a hillside where they could see into certain windows to get clean shots. And then I'm seeing cigarette butts, tennis shoe or hiking boot things, and where they buried things like cans of tuna where they were eating, because they were out there for at least 24 to 48 hours in a wooded area that goes up, that sort of shines down on the house or comes up at the house in an angle where they can sense things. It felt like a stakeout. There are things buried. There'll be shoe tracks. There'll be cigarette butts. And I know it sounds weird, but I keep hearing that Mick or that Mike or that Mark.
Yeah, it's not as good.
At full disclosure, I keep hearing full disclosure, and something was going to come out. He was going to share something.
Yeah.
You think a 95-year-old had it in him to expose something, like right before he died?
He was calling shit out before that.
I know. I'm saying when you're 95, do you think when people are about to die, they'll still just name names?
Deathbed confessions.
He doesn't care
But
about
then couldn't they
anything
just
anymore.
be like, oh, he had dementia?
Come again?
I mean, he doesn't have to care about it anymore. He's free. He knows he's
Right, 'cause
95
he's about
and
to
he's
die.
free. And so he probably could have it all written down somewhere and they know it. So they come in and raid the house, get rid of whatever he has, and then get him out of there. Because like, it doesn't matter if
If I was a good
he's
PR
95.
person, I would just see he's a crazy fucking old person.
Oh yeah.
But at
yeah.
the same time, though, I can feel Betsy being startled, and she was startled by somebody that was not her husband.
Yeah, it's just too weird. You know, there's two people and a dog dead, and maybe the dog was yapping away.
And the other dog's still alive.
Yeah. And honestly, there is something nefarious here. It just looks unusual, to the average person, like me and Tom.
Drew's laughing. I don't think Drew believes in this. No, I want.
That's okay.
Can you name Drew's theory? Because I thought that was logical.
Drew's theory was that she died, and then he was not being taken care of, and then he died. And then the dog
That does make the most sense. That actually does make the most sense.
But now that he was in the mudroom, I'm like, does it make sense?
But if she died first and he saw her dead, wouldn't he then call somebody?
Right. Like when he
Right.
used his iPhone, he had an iPhone.
Maybe he
So
hated her.
I just love Emmy's going, he's just an old guy. Why would anyone believe an old guy? He's just a crazy old guy. He's got dementia.
That's what I would do if I was a PR person. I would
It's so
spin it.
funny. It's like, wait, stop listening to old people, will you?
My dad ran a hardware store until he was 95 years old, and then went to the hospital and died.
I would just blame
I would just say
Alzheimer's.
common things happen commonly, right?
Yes.
And 95-year-olds, typically, especially men, can't get out of bed and can't walk.
But where's
And
his iPhone?
he
probably
was
had-
found next to his cane. So a very common thing that happens to elderly people is something happens middle of the night, or they can't get to their caretaker. They climb out of bed, they fall down, they die on the floor.
Right.
It takes a few days. She had pills spilled all over the place. We don't know if those were her pills. We don't know if those were sedating
gonna
pills.
find out what the pills are,
We don't know
but
anything about
maybe
the pills. But she's dead in the bathroom with pills spilled around. So just putting, I don't know what happened, but just putting
Unless
common
she
things
committed
happen
suicide
calmly on
'cause
it.
she knew he was gonna
Maybe
die.
she committed suicide.
Maybe she
was
saw him dead and then killed herself.
Maybe she's a drug addict. Maybe whatever. Maybe it took too much, fell and hit her head. I don't know. But the common thing would be the old guy falling because no one came to him and then
Not
dying
the
on the
old
floor.
guy about to expose Clinton. It was just an old guy falling.
Susan is right. You weren't listening to her.
No, he was exposing
He was talking about stuff, and one of the things that could happen if he had his wits about him. I know you can't believe that a 95-year-old male would have their wits about
No,
him.
I believe it.
But he's some old crazy old guy. But
I was just saying that's what I would say if I was
perhaps
a
he saw
PR
the
person.
end coming, and perhaps he said, "Now's the time. Now I'm going to expose everybody."
Right.
So then
And
Eddie's
if
thing
I was
kicks back in again.
if I was like the person on the Epstein list, I would dismiss him as a crazy old guy.
You can always do that, but he never got to the place where he could do it. Where he could.
They
Who
never
knows?
do they? They never do
know,
because maybe they're getting zapped.
This is going to sound crazy, but I feel like Betsy, she's a Life Path 33, by the way. So savant energy.
master
She was
number.
a master musician. I'm just now starting to get a little feeling that maybe she herself went through some really crazy things. And that was part of his enclave into learning more about it. I'm not saying that, I just feel like she lived through something and got out of it. And so his heart is even more into it. But I do feel a weird thing, Dr. Drew, with the prescriptions, because it feels like either they're mixed up or they weren't all hers or something that doesn't make sense.
Or they killed her and they threw her pills on the floor.
I think they just planted the pills.
Somebody
it's both.
Secret Al over here said CIA used a frozen pellet of saxitoxin, poison derived from shellfish. It wasn't a dart.
Oh, shellfish. That's right.
So they,
It's like that gun.
I sent that over to Kaleb in the chat. I don't know if he got it, but
You did?
So I looked this up while we were talking. And so, Dr. Drew, I just want you to know, because before you tell me I'm a conspiracy theorist, it was actually confirmed, according to what I have here, U.S. Senate investigation into intelligence activities led by Senator Frank Church, confirmed in committee hearings in 1975 that they do shoot a frozen dart with it's saxitoxin. What it would happen is it would pierce the skin, it would melt, the saxitoxin would kill you, and it was
And
pretty
it looked
much
like you had
untraceable.
bad shellfish. Yeah.
I guess I don't.
Looks
I
like,
don't. I'll
you-
leave that to the doctor, but I don't know that this is what happened. I've got no evidence on any of that, but I do. I'm just pretty excited about the fact that the heart attack.
Well, that lines up with
turns out to
Eddie's
be real.
theory.
Yeah.
Well, and it's weird because there's definitely two, and when tuning into Betsy, and by the way, I know I sound nuts whenever I talk about things like this, but I was literally asking for the highest and purest information to come through that they would be amenable to sharing on a public platform. I'm not just walking around tuning into dead people in a disrespectful way.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Because I don't want people standing over my bed rattling chains at 3 o'clock in the morning. Not that I'd be doing anything I'd want to be doing. But she's definitely the Life Path 33. But whenever I tuned into her separate from him, the MCK Mick, Mike, Mark person came in.
Think MK Ultra?
Two people. No, it just feels like a Mick, a Mike, or a Mark, somebody with a k or M sound in their name, male. And one of them had a mask, and I can feel them with the mask on from a distance where they have a couple of clear views of the house. Even if they didn't, quote, kill them, they have, I'm telling you, they're there. And I feel like this part will at least hopefully come out into the light. There is something off, but there is also that organic feeling that something happened with his heart.
There was also people saying that their kids hadn't talked to them in 3 months. My mom called me and was like, how terrible. Wouldn't you, if we were 95, wouldn't you keep talking to us and checking in on us? That maybe.
Yeah, I was really fortunate to see my dad right before he died, and I was really glad because I called
Apparently
him. I was the last one to
ghosted.
talk to him before he died. So
3 months of no communication.
That would be really hard for me. So I feel
Is
bad.
that-
I
do you
feel
have
bad
something
for
about
them
the
if they
kids?
were just like on vacation or something. And I hope I don't wish any ill will. on them.
Eddie's going.
They just lost their
No,
parents.
I just saw this synchronicity again. She is born in a number 6 year on a number 6 day, and Tom is born in a number 6 year on a number 6 day.
So maybe we need Tom to solve this.
So there's lots of home and family energy connected to it, but I mean that's just kind of synchronistic. 3 and 3 is 6.
If we find out that this stuff happened, we called it out first because that's my job. I just want to see if we can find something that seems unusual and have an explanation for it. I mean, I'm kind of glad they're taking their time doing the investigation because it gave me more time, but we never figured out why the Black Hawk slammed into that airliner, and we never will because it was all related to the military.
I think that was remote control.
I hope this isn't military as well.
I mean,
we
it's
never get
sounding
any
like it
information.
is based on Tom, and they're both saying it's this.
It just looks fishy, right, Tom? It just
listen. I'm not saying it's military. What I'm saying is here's the thing: is it peculiar that you got 2 people dead in that fashion, not found for 9 days, the dog's dead, is Drew's got a point. I mean, very much, it could have been that Gene saw his wife, he was distraught, he was going to the front door, he was trying to make his way out, and he had a heart attack. It could be that, or he fell, and maybe the dog did starve. There were 2 other dogs that survived and were okay. I don't know, but what I do know is that whatever happened, I think it's interesting that they would be so dismissive of any chance of foul play. If I were the investigator on this, I wouldn't rule out anything. I would look at everything. I would expect. I would want full panels. What happened? Because it's bizarre, right? It's bizarre, and maybe. And if it wasn't carbon monoxide, if it was, if it was like Dr. Drew says, well, maybe that's a legit possibility. I'm going to argue with that, but you just. To me, when you've got something like that, you do the investigation, you check it out, because it just seems very peculiar.
Yes. And the first thing I asked Drew was, do you think that they just had a vaccine?
That could have been. Maybe that's why they're not investigating.
Right. Exactly. When our good friend, gosh, I can't remember.
Bob
Saget hit his head and died in a hotel room by himself. There's a theory that he had a vaccine, or he had COVID and the vaccine, and he fell back. He had pot syndrome, hit his head, and then, bled to death or whatever. But they never really talked about it because it's never been, but he was America's dad. It just wasn't being put out there like that. It's like, it happened, he's dead.
Well, anything with a vaccine injury, though, that was on national television or live television, there's a whole montage of it that was going around the world where newscasters were dropping dead after they got their shots, like hundreds of them.
And it happened to our friend Heather McDonald on the stage.
Oh, that was crazy. Well, so today I was paranoid because my mom was like, hey, when you're driving to Dr. Drew's, don't get in a car accident. And I was like, well, now I'm definitely going to die. And then the internet's going to say Candace Owens killed me because I was about to expose a pedophile ring. And I'm going to become a conspiracy theory.
But wait, why would Candace kill you if you were going to expose a pedophile ring?
Because I was about to expose some stuff today, and I was exposing stuff yesterday. So I was thinking, no matter what, when someone dies, the internet's going to create a conspiracy. And I was like,
they're going to with you.
If I died today, they would say it was because of something, but it's simply not true because I was texting on my phone and not paying attention. So my whole point is you can create a conspiracy about every death, but this one does seem more peculiar than others because of the dog. I think the dog factor is weird. Because the one lived.
Right,
how
weird.
Long can a dog live without eating? Because maybe that one dog was able to go on.
What is its connection to Epstein Island? Maybe
can Megan repeat that?
I mean, you
make
never
some
would
notes so that if she does get in a car wreck, I can start to remember.
Pray for me. I'm really nervous now for my ride home.
You can represent me.
I'm nervous. I almost didn't come because I almost told you I was sick
on my property.
I was scared. That I was going to manifest
on the way to the car.
It's slippery. It's LA. We can't walk in water in LA. It's raining, Emily. You shouldn't drive. You should spend the night.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous out there for you.
But they're just going to send Robin and I out the door.
And the funny thing, because I'm a life path 8, I don't fly on the 17th. I'm too afraid I'll die on the 17th. So I don't fly. But you said he died on the 17th and he's a life path 8.
Well, yeah, but he's in his heart chakra too. There's 3-4 soul chronicities with that.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Explicit
as to what we all have a series of chakras in the body. The top 3, the throat, the third eye, and the crown, are what you call the heaven chakras, which just is a word for expanded consciousness, God consciousness. And then the bottom 3 are the base of the spine, then the sacral chakra.
I know all that, but what does it mean to be in the heart chakra?
It means that he was living in his heart chakra for 1 whole year.
What's that mean?
That's just heart problem.
He was nice?
No, the heart chakras where unconditional love is.
Unconditional love.
And every time you feel good or joyful or happy about anything, then you marry the heaven and the earth.
Then he wouldn't want to expose
body.
all the people because he'd have compassion from the pedos.
But you can also not be in a... I'm going to cut somebody. I'm a spiritual person, but I will cut cute people left and right. Don't even look at me. I'm joking.
No, I just feel like the whole thing is crazy. I mean, I wouldn't know anything about the heart chakra.
Listen, if it's just something like they loved each other, she died, he
like
went
a notebook
to help her, he had a heart attack, they died, and nobody checked in on him, did a welfare check for 10 days, and it just happens.
Or didn't
you know,
talk to your kids for
well,
3
or
months.
maybe the kids were mad at her and they didn't check in with her because they were mad or whatever because he was going to die and leave the kids nothing, or I don't know.
That's also a theory.
I don't know, but it might just be normal life stuff. But I like it. It's interesting that what you've seen and how you feel, because it makes me just want to follow the news. And this
the
new
news ain't gonna
cycle
tell
will
the whole
pass,
truth.
and they'll just,
We're never going to know what happened.
yeah.
Not the
So
full
just,
truth.
if you die and go to heaven, are they going to say, here's the conspiracy theories you had right, here's everything you guys got wrong? Because I'd be interested in knowing, like,
not how
what
it
was I
works.
right about and what was I wrong about?
No, listen, let me tell you, lucky for you, when you do transition and go up to heaven, that will be the last thing on your mind.
Really?
Yeah.
I promise
It's
you.
all
you will
people
not,
focus on these days. It's
No.
like all people care about is trying to figure it out.
no, not all people.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people.
All right.
lot
Well,
of
we
people.
are
digital.
so fortunate to have had our guest and our psychic here for 2 hours for this is I was going to do like a 2-part series, but you guys hung it out and stuck with me for 2 hours. Our fans are having a good time. We really appreciate our fans and our sponsors. If you guys want to support the show, go to drdo.com/sponsors and buy something. Check it out. All the links are there. This was a commercial-free show because we had a lot to say, right, Tom?
You sure did. We always got a lot to say, though. But this was a lot of fun. This was crazy. And guess what? Like, this was like, I got to do like pop culture. Like, Megan's like an entertainment person. I had psychics there. Like.
Oh,
this
it's
is,
Emily.
I'm just letting him say Meg. I like
sorry,
being
Emily.
Megan. I'm anonymous.
I'm sorry, Emily. But like, I'm over here and like I'm a cool guy now. My kids are going to never believe it. They're going to be like, I'm telling my kids, I'm like, Dad's pop culture now. I'm cool. They're not going to believe it. But.
When worlds collide.
That's so cute. How old are your kids?
I want to work
14
with
and
Tom
12.
I have to hit Tom up for a few things after about.
Oh yeah,
There's some
he's-
vaccine stories.
Oh,
Dude.
He'd
yeah.
be good for the
mean,
Maha stuff.
I love
Dude, I'm
his
big on it.
stories. I want to hear more. I do. I really want to hear more. And everybody needs to follow him. Kaleb was going to put up our banner today, World War III, in big bold letters, and I said, we may never get to that. I go, yes, of course there's going to be World War
This
III.
felt like World War
And I
III,
was-
me and Eddie.
And then I looked at your feed and you were talking about Zelensky and World War and all this stuff. And I had to apologize to Kaleb because I said, no, I don't even know if he's an expert on that. So the next show, we'll talk about world affairs and stuff like that. And we didn't get to it because there was just
I have
so
one
much.
question. Do you guys think it was bad he didn't wear a suit?
Zelensky, yes.
Really?
Yes.
I thought he looked better than everyone in the White House.
God, but Trump, Zelensky, World War III, that is an entire episode on itself. And I do want to have you back and do it again. And if you ever want to have some coolness among your kids, and then I want to tell
I'm
everybody
all
where to
in.
find you though, because Tom has a podcast called The Tom Renz Show. That's with a Z, as you noticed. And his website is tomrenz.com, and which is very straightforward. Definitely good idea. And renzlawfare.com. And that's lawfare, like F-A-R-E, correct?
Yes,
Not in the-
yes, ma'am.
Is that your Substack, Tom?
So if you need a good lawyer, Renz.
TomRenz.substack.com. TomRenz.substack.com. We
And then also, your name's backwards on X. It's Renz Tom instead of Tom. I always have a hard time finding you when I'm looking you up, but it's Renz Tom. And then on Rumble, it's Tom Renz.
I tried to make it
Try
as
both ways.
complicated as possible for anybody to find me so that I can have the least amount of influence anybody. Yeah, I mean, my goal is to be the most uninfluential influencer possible. You know, I want to make sure that.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job. And then, I know that everybody here really appreciates your time. And then also you can find Eddie Connor at eddieconnor.com and ask Eddie Connor Soul on Instagram. And also Andrew Anderson with Psychic Medium, reading.garg, and Emily Hagan, who is now my official co-host, but I want to call her the real host of the show.
I thought I'd be fired after
honestly,
after that take I had.
Which one?
All of them
Oh,
today.
No. Honestly, I really appreciate it.
pedophiles.
And I think we lost Tom, Tata, and
no, I'm
also you can. Oh no. But
I'm here.
anyways, I want
ugly and off screen.
Tom was a great addition to the show.
He's amazing, and I hope he'll come back. But anyways, you can find Emily Hagan at Emily with an IE knows everything, and you can see all of her information about Kanye West.
It's all about Candace Owens and Andrew Tate right now. That's what I'm focusing on is Andrew Tate at the moment.
Right, and so I feel bad when Tom's not in the picture. I don't know if he's there, but bye, Tom. Thank you again.
I'm here.
Susan, you need to
Thank
start
you
linking your
much,
outfits.
Caleb has to go. We have a show at 3 o'clock.
We're already way past our heart out. Got to go.
Yeah,
we have another show.
Leave,
Ask Dr. Drew in 50 minutes.
Everybody needs to go check it out.
Dr. Drew's dressed like Zelensky.
Go to at Dr. Drew on
the
Rumble,
black tea.
on X.
It's a good look.
And watch the Ask Dr. Drew show with Dr. Drew. And we'll be just supporting his show because he supports us. So thank you. And we'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Susan.
God bless.
The Wellness Company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and that is why they are constantly innovating to deliver the products and services to help you be rationally ready for an emergency. They've added a medical kit for kids to treat over 20 childhood illnesses: nausea, vomiting, allergies, asthma, bioterror, God forbid, croup ear infections, lice, and more. And you can also order the kids kit with an EpiPen. Carefully sourced, great price. If there's a risk of anaphylaxis for your kids, you want that EpiPen. That can be in all kits, each customized for a different purpose. It comes, of course, with a telemedicine consultation and a guidebook, and you can replenish the meds up to 2 years after the date of purchase. So go to drdrew.com/2WC for 10% off any medical emergency kit or supplements. That is drdrew.com/TWC.